Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So it is that time of the year again. It's at the end of 2024, so it's time to talk about my top 10 favorite movies of the year, aka top 10 best movies of 2024. In my opinion, of course, and that goes without saying that my list, I can almost guarantee, is going to be different from your list, but that's what makes these videos so much fun, is just kind of getting to see what everyone's list looks like. I will have some honorable mentions in here, but I just want to give you guys kind of a side note as far as how I make these lists, because my top 10 might not necessarily feature some of the films that you're going to see that are up for, best picture of the year, or how some of the most important things that for me when making these lists, how I kind of go off it is that just how much I enjoyed the film, the experience in the theater, how I was able to connect with it personally, and just the rewatchability factor for me as well. So, because sometimes there might be a great movie that comes out and it's just kind of like a one and done for me, or I don't necessarily see myself revisiting it anytime soon. It's still a great film, but it's just not something that it's like, yeah, I'm going to watch this, every couple of months or something like that. And so I just wanted to give you that insight into how I kind of create these lists, because I'm sure there's going to be on some here that probably surprise some people. I know people are going to have their opinions about it, so I can't wait to see that in the comments for sure. But yeah, definitely let me know what your top 10 lists are down below in the comments. If you guys are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button next to it so you get notifications for all my new videos. And I just want to say, before we dive into things, just thank you guys so much for an incredible year on the channel. For me personally, it's been a year of up and downs, but I mean, the channel just overall the support has been amazing. I remember when I started this journey, I hit my first 100 subs, and I thought that was crazy. Never thought that I would get to the point where I had 3,000 people, or close to 3,000 people, that actually give a shit what my opinion are when it comes to different films or TV shows or just anything in pop culture in general. So I can't thank you guys enough. The support just means the world to me. I had so much fun doing this, talking to you guys, getting your guys' opinions on things. And so thank you guys just so much from the bottom of my heart. It really means a lot. And I hope you stick around, because I think 2025 is going to be even better. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the honorable mentions on this list. All right, so the first one that I'm going to talk about is Strange Darling. I know this is a film that many people, it's like, what? This didn't make your top 10? And honestly, some of these and the honorable mentions, they could very easily slide into that top 10. It just might be kind of how I'm feeling on a different day. But I remember seeing this in theaters, seeing the one trailer, didn't really know a whole lot going into it, and it was just an insane ride from start to finish. You basically have these two people have a one-night stand, and shit just gets batshit crazy from there. Amazing performances from Willa Fitzgerald and Kyle Gallner. I won't get into specifics, because if you guys don't know a lot about this film, that's how you should go into it. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. Highly recommend this one. Next up, we have Beetlejuice. I'm sure this is probably going to be a surprise for some people, because I know not everyone loved this film, but we had to wait a long time for this, and I think it was worth it. It was just so much fun seeing this in the theaters. It's one of those movies that I can definitely see being added to my fall collection that I watch every year, just because the fall Halloween atmosphere that they were able to create was just done so well. Jenna Ortega being added to this franchise, I thought was a great addition. Having Winona Ryder come back, and then Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice, he just fit right back into that role. And for me personally, this is probably Tim Burton's best film that he has done in years. And so this is a movie I saw several times in theaters, and I now own it on 4K, so that's why it made the list for me. Next up, we have a film called Heretic, which this was a film that surprised me. I went into this and I was just surprised that for a film that really is just kind of, there's a lot of dialogue in this movie, but just how engaged I was in it, the back and the forth, the conversation that it presents as far as religion goes, and it doesn't necessarily tack one person's point of view or the other. The way that they were able to present that and tackle those topics, I thought were handled really well, and the performances all around were really enjoyable. So this was one that definitely had to make my list, and I can't wait to add this to the collection. Next up, we have My Old Ass, and so this is the follow-up from the director, I believe her name's Megan Park, who did The Fallout with Jenna Ortega a couple years ago, which was one of my favorite films of the year. This is her follow-up to that. And she is definitely one of those people now, she has cemented it, that anytime she has a new project coming out, that is something that is going to be on my radar because I thought she did a great job with this one. It has its comedic elements, but our main star, which, God, I am spacing her name right now, but just, she basically one day she's hanging out with her friends. She takes, I believe it's some like mushrooms, and then she starts seeing her older self, and they have some conversations back and forth with each other. Her older version played by Aubrey Plaza. And just, yeah, I mean, the movie is hilarious, but it also has some hard-hitting emotional moments as well. And so if you haven't seen this one, I definitely recommend you guys checking it out. It's on Prime Video, I believe, right now. Up next, we have The Substance. This is a film that could very easily be in the top 10, and I'm sure it's probably in the top 10 for a lot of people. This was one of those movies that there was a lot of hype behind it, and sometimes when you see those, they're a little overhyped, but I thought that this lived up to and exceeded all expectations. There is a lot of gore, gruesome moments in this movie, so horror fans, I think, will definitely dig it if you haven't seen it. But it's not just that as well. There's actually a story to be told, and meaning behind it, and just the performances from Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. Very vulnerable performance from both of those two. One of my favorites of the year. The only thing that for me, I don't know how rewatchable it's going to be. I don't know how many times I'm going to be there sitting and be like, oh yeah, I want to throw on The Substance and watch that right now. So the rewatchability factor is a little questionable for me right now, but I mean, that the one time that I did get to see it, it absolutely blew my mind. Next, we have Wicked, which is by far one of my biggest surprises of the year because I am someone who is not really a musical guy. And so when this was announced, I really had almost little to no interest in actually seeing this. I love The Wizard of Oz, but just when I knew this was a musical, it was based off the Broadway play, I just didn't really have any interest in seeing it. And so it wasn't until it actually came out, start hearing reviews from people that I know aren't really big musical fans as well, and they say that they love the film. I was like, okay, I gotta check this out, and I'm so glad that I did. It's definitely one of those things that you want to see on the big screen. Just the visuals, how beautiful it looked, the different sets and things like that, and then the performances from our two main stars. Wow. And I will just say that ever since that film has come out, I have had Popular on repeat in Spotify. So thank you, Ariana Grande, for that. Lastly, as far as the honorable mentions go, is going to be Abigail. Again, this is one of those that I thought was going to make my top 10, and it was in there for most of the year. This was a movie that, granted, I wish that we didn't know the giveaway of who Abigail was going into the film, but the poster, the marketing, we all knew who Abigail was if you saw any of those. If you haven't, just go into this film without knowing who this character is. But even knowing that, just going into it, this was some of the most fun that I had at the theaters this year. Radio Silence, Melissa Barrera, Catherine Newton, two of my favorite actors currently. I can't, every project that they're in, I'm like, yep, that's definitely something that I'm interested in. And so just so much fun, especially as a horror fan. So this is definitely one that I recommend you guys checking out if you haven't seen it already. All right, now getting into my top 10 films. So starting off with number 10, Lisa Frankenstein. This is the directorial debut of Zelda Williams. It is written by Diablo Cody, and it stars Catherine Newton. I knew as soon as I saw the trailer that this was my type of film. It's Jennifer's body meets a little bit of Heather's, and just a different take on the Frankenstein story. I thought this film was so much fun. Didn't do really well as far as the critics go. Last I looked, it had like a 50-something on Rotten Tomatoes. But I feel like this is one of those movies that it is destined to become a cult classic in the years to come. Kind of how Jennifer's Body was. I don't believe that, if I remember correctly, that didn't do really well with the critics when it came out. But a lot of people really enjoy that film. And so that's it for me. Catherine Newton, man, like I had just mentioned previously with Abigail, she is one of my favorite actresses working today. And so anytime there's a new project with her moving forward, it's definitely going to be on my list. You can tell that she just had so much fun with this role, the quippy writing, with the characters. I really enjoyed this. It's something that I, just will continue to watch over and over again. At number 9, we have The First Omen. So another directorial debut, this time with Arkasha Stevenson. This is a prequel to the classic The Omen from the 70s. And so anytime you're doing a prequel to a beloved film like that, you're always a little hesitant going into it. But man, I think Arkasha just absolutely knocked it out of the park here. This was a film that came out earlier on in the year, and it stayed on my top 10 list. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I thought that this film really goes for it in a couple scenes, which actually kind of really surprised me. And it just had this creepy vibe throughout it, and just the way that they handled and built on the lore. This was a film that actually generally creeped me out in a couple moments. And so anytime that you can do that with the number of horror films that I've seen, yeah, you're probably going to make my list of the favorites of the year. So love The First Omen. And at number 8, we have Late Night with the Devil, starring David Dastmalchian. Hope I'm saying that correctly. He has been, I mean, this guy has to be one of the hardest working people in Hollywood. He is everywhere, and I was so glad to finally see him get a starring role, so that way other people could get a chance to see what he could do. And I thought that he did a great job carrying this film, but it's filled with some great performances from others as well, and including Ingrid Torelli, who plays the possessed girl at one point. Basically, you have this tape of this late night broadcast that is found, and some spooky shit that happens throughout it, and just the way that it was filmed, the whole aesthetic, I thought worked really well. I didn't get a chance to see this in theaters. I got a screener for this, and so I was able to watch it at home. And for me, this is one of those rare instances where I think I actually preferred that, because I watched it at home. All the lights were off, had it on my laptop, had my headphones on and everything, and just really immersed me in the experience where I was watching, I felt like I was watching this tape that was discovered. And generally creeped me out a couple times in this film too. So this is one of those movies. I own it now on 4K. I got the special box set of it. If you haven't checked it out, highly recommend this one if you're a horror fan. At number 7, we have Dune Part 2. Once again, Denis Villeneuve, he just absolutely killed it. The cinematography, how everything looked, those sandworms, even just the freaking sand, man. It looked amazing there up on the big screen. This is what going to the movies is all about. Great performances from Timothy, from Austin Butler, from Zendaya. This was a franchise that I really knew nothing going into part 1. I hadn't read any of the books or anything, and I've just been captivated by this. So I can't wait to see what they're going to give to us in part 3. At number 6, we have Alien Romulus. And so this, if you guys saw my review, this is my favorite Alien film since Aliens back in the 80s. I absolutely loved it. It was probably one of the most tense experiences that I had at the theaters this year. Seeing this on the big screen was incredible. Fede Alvarez, man, the guy, you guys need someone to direct a horror film, inject some new blood into it. Get Fede, man, and he will deliver for sure. Excellent performances from the cast here. The xenomorphs, they looked great. Actually made them scary once again, and had a fantastic popcorn bucket as well. But yeah, this was a film that I knew was going to make my list as soon as I had seen it. At number 5, we have Snack Shack. This was a film that I actually missed when it came out earlier in the year, and I just got to finally a chance to watch it recently. And I am so glad that I got to watch it before I made this list, because this was a movie that I honestly feel like went under the radar for a lot of people. It takes place in the 90s. You have these two friends. They're always trying to come up with different kind of schemes to make money. And this one summer, they end up losing a lot of money, and so they have to come up with a way to get that back, and for other things as well. And so they start working at this snack shack, and just, I don't know, they just don't make movies like this anymore, man. It was so much fun, just one of those feel-good movies this year. You had these two best friends just hanging out in the 90s, where it was a much simpler time. You didn't have social media, things like that. There's a little bit of a love triangle thrown in there. The comedy is great. And it hits you emotionally at one point too that I wasn't expecting. So if this is a film that you have not seen, I definitely recommend you guys checking this out. It is streaming now. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray 4K, but if it isn't, I hope that it does get a release one day, because this is one that I would love to add to my collection. Yeah, like I said, you just don't see a lot of these type of comedy films anymore, and I really miss those. All right, at number 4, we have a film that I feel like a lot of people probably haven't heard of this year. I feel like it's went under the radar, and that is Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person. It is a mouthful of a title, I know, but I absolutely fell in love with this film. Basically, there is a vampire who is unable to kill and meet her need for blood, but she might have found a solution in a young man with suicidal tendencies. It stars Sarah Monpetit. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly. It is a foreign film, so I had subtitles on watching the movie. It is definitely a dark comedy, but it does have some heartwarming moments to it as well. And I just instantly fell in love with this movie. I have a little bit of a darker sense of humor, so I was able to connect with that. But it was just a different approach to the vampire genre. I mean, obviously, we've gotten a shit ton of vampire films over the years in Hollywood, and just to find something that's a little bit different, I really appreciated that. The performances were really good, so if this was one that you haven't heard of, definitely recommend you guys checking this one out. All right, at number 3, we have Deadpool and Wolverine, the one major release from Marvel this year. And there was a lot riding on this film. I was even a little nervous going into it just because, some of Marvel's recent projects haven't always been, top-notch like they were for years. But Deadpool and Wolverine was one of the most fun times that I had at the theaters this year with a big group of friends. Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, just getting to see that team up finally on the big screen. That was the big drawing point for me, and they absolutely delivered. The banter back and forth with each other. How far they were able to go with this film, I was really pleasantly surprised with that because I wasn't sure if Disney was going to let them do that. And it just delivered on so many levels. The cameos that were in here were amazing because I didn't think I was going to see some of those characters again. Yeah, it's instantly become one of my favorite Marvel movies. Then at number 2, a movie that I just did a full review for, so if you guys missed that, definitely check it out. But that is Nosferatu by Robert Eggers, and yeah, I can't wait I'm actually going to be seeing this movie again really soon, and I probably actually would have by the time that this video gets released. But I am one of those people, I know that it's kind of divided. People, you either love it or you hate it, it seems like. I am one of those people that absolutely love this movie, especially the more I watched it that first night and had a chance to sleep on it, and it's just really stuck with me. I'm a big fan of Robert Eggers. As you can see, I got, the shirt right here. But yeah, just the cinematography, the shots in this film, the way that it looks was just absolutely amazing. The costumes, the score, just really built this incredible atmosphere. Bill Skarsgård, like I said in my review, a transformative performance from him, and I was really surprised by Lily Rose Depp with her performance as well. So highly recommend you guys checking this one out. All right, and without further ado, my number 1 film of the year is Inside Out 2. This was a movie that ever since it came out in theaters, I saw it for the first time. It has stayed at number 1 and it hasn't left. I wasn't sure if that was going to be the case. I thought there was a couple films that maybe could take its place. But this movie, I saw it 4 or 5 times in the theaters. I just absolutely fell in love with this movie, all the different characters, the new emotions that we got introduced, especially Anxiety, played by Maya Hawke. She was incredible in this role, and looking back, just based off her character in Stranger Things, I thought it was, spot on casting with her for Anxiety. Just what they were able to do with that character, especially the panic attack scene, that really hit me because I've been in those kind of moments before, and so you just really connected with it. I wasn't expecting that, I guess, going into this movie. And it's funny because years back when the original one came out, I liked it, but I wasn't a big fan of the original Inside Out. And I think it's probably because when I saw it, I just couldn't appreciate it as much. But since then, I've gone back and revisited it and appreciated it much more as I've gotten older. And especially with this film, it's just like I feel like so many people can relate to it. Just the different emotions that they explore here. I'm really excited to see. I hope we get, many more Inside Out movies because I feel like there's a lot that they can still do with this character and the new emotions that they can possibly introduce. And yeah, it instantly became one of my favorite Pixar movies just of all time as well. I absolutely loved Inside Out too. So yeah, that concludes my top 10 favorite movies of the year. Like I said, there's probably some films in there that I'm sure are probably going to surprise a lot of people. I'm sure I'm probably going to get shit for some people saying, like, how could this film make your top 10? But like I said, guys, it's my personal list. Leave me your list down below because I'm really curious to see. What makes this fun, too, is sometimes there are films that I might not have heard of that I missed out on, and then you guys bring them up and I go and check them out, and I'm so glad that I did. So I can't wait to see what your guys' top 10 lists are down below in the comments. You can even throw in some honorable mentions as well. But yeah, it was a great year for movies in my opinion. Like I said, the most that I had seen in a year. I don't know if we'll be able to top that, seeing at least the amount of movies that I did in 2025. But we'll try for sure. So let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. If you guys are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button as well as the bell button next to it. That way you get notifications for all my new videos. Give this video a thumbs up. And make sure you guys check back for more Pop Culture with Pat.